The Amazon is the largest rainforest in the world. So big, it generates half its own rainfall. It's the richest ecosystem on the planet. So diverse, it's home to a third of all life forms on Earth. Its hot, wet climate changes little through the year. In such dependable conditions, life has run wild. But the Amazon isn't just one world. It is many. From sunlit treetops to dark forest floor, high cloud forest to lowland palm swamps. It's a jigsaw of different habitats, which animals and people have developed an almost infinite number of ways to exploit. And driving it all is the mightiest river on Earth. The Amazon covers 8 million square kilometers of South America. If it were a country, it would be the 6th largest in the world. It has formed over the last 15 million years, since the Andes Mountains began to rise, forcing the Amazon River to flow west to east. Today, 60% of the Amazon lies in Brazil. The remaining 40% is spread across 8 more countries. Straddling the equator, it is permanently hot and wet. Ideal conditions for life. It's unrivaled anywhere in terms of its biodiversity. And the secret to success here is specialization. For the animals that can reach it, the Amazon's canopy is a green Eden. 45 meters above ground, it is open and bathed in sunshine. The sun delivers the equivalent energy of 6 million atomic bombs over the Amazon every day. Countless trillions of leaves photosynthesize in 12 hours of light, 365 days a year. They pump out 20% of the world's oxygen and produce incalculable tons of fruits and seeds. The canopy is the most productive part of the forest. It's a land of plenty, but not without challenges. From above, it appears to be an unbroken carpet of green. But in reality, the branches of each tree rarely touch each other. And with the ground a dizzying distance below, getting about can be tricky. There are over 100 species of monkey in the Brazilian Amazon alone. And each has evolved a different way of coping with this treetop existence. Red howler monkeys take it steady and clamber slowly through the branches. They're one of the heaviest monkeys in the forest and like to be sure where they're putting their feet. A muscular tail is a built-in safety rope. Life in the trees isn't easy, but it does have advantages. A jaguar can't climb all the way to the canopy, so monkey is rarely on the menu. Tiny squirrel monkeys dash through the branches in a much more chaotic fashion than the cautious howlers. They use their tails not for gripping, but for balance. These little lightweights can get to parts of the canopy other monkeys cannot reach. They weigh less than a kilo, and the smallest of twigs and vines support them. A bromeliad is a treetop treasure trove. Insects hiding among the leaves are packed with protein and fuel the squirrel monkey's frenetic way of life. The amount of food on offer in the jungle canopy has driven monkeys to develop weird and wonderful ways to exploit it. One of the oddest to conquer this high-rise lifestyle is the bald wakari. Not the most handsome monkey in the forest, but one of the most acrobatic. Wakaris are the only monkeys in the Amazon to have short, stumpy tails. But what they lack in tails, they make up for in muscular arms and legs. They can make daredevil jumps of 10 meters or more. The wakari's buck teeth are perfectly suited to picking out seeds from the aguaje fruit. Bare faces and a tufted tail create the illusion that these monkeys are upside down. Scientists believe this could be an adaptation to confuse predators. Monkeys up here are out of reach of jaguars below, but the canopy harbors fearsome killers of its own. A harpy eagle can sit silently for hours, watching for the perfect hunting opportunity. Harpies are expert monkey catchers. They're armed with talons 13 centimeters long, the size of a grizzly bear's claws. And they're so powerful, they can pluck prey weighing as much as they do, up to 9 kilograms, clean out of the canopy. Large eyes give them excellent vision. They can pinpoint the smallest monkey over 200 meters away. Despite a wingspan of over 2 meters, the harpy eagle is surprisingly agile. It can fly up to 80 kilometers an hour and maneuver through the trees with the lightning reactions of a fighter pilot. It's over in seconds. The huge talons exert over 50 kilos of pressure and instantly crush the monkey's bones. A juvenile harpy eagle hangs around its parents' nest, begging for food. It's already fledged, but is not yet an experienced hunter. A sloth has chosen a dangerous place for a snooze. An adult harpy would snatch this sleepy sloth off its branch in the blink of an eye. But even when handed a meal on a plate, this young eagle doesn't seem sure where to start. It's a lucky escape for the sloth, but hardly a quick getaway. Sloths are certainly slow-moving, but there's nothing lazy about them. Their ponderous movements are part of a unique way of coping with jungle life. Sloths spend their whole lives in just a handful of trees. Claws clamp onto branches, and their grip is so strong they rarely fall, even when they go to sleep. Modified muscles allow a sloth to hang for hours, in positions other mammals would find impossibly uncomfortable. The secret of the sloth's survival is slow digestion. They expend so little energy, they need to eat very little. They chew their way through less than 200 grams of leaves each day. Every meal takes 30 days to digest. They come to the ground just once a week to answer the call of nature. The climb down is worth the effort because their dung serves to fertilize their patch of trees. Sloths blend in completely with their surroundings. Their mottled fur is highly camouflaged and even goes green with algae when it's wet. They cannot regulate their own body temperature as other mammals do, but instead rely on the constant warmth of the rainforest to keep their metabolism ticking over. Sloths are so much a part of their environment that they have themselves been colonized by other animals. These tiny moths spend their whole lives in a sloth's shaggy coat. 100 or more sloth moths can be found burrowing in the fur of a single host. As caterpillars, the moths feed exclusively on sloth dung. By hitching a ride on the sloth, female moths make sure they're always in the right place at the right time to lay their eggs next to their food supply. Being so wholly dependent on one habitat and food source makes animals very vulnerable to change. But such specialized ways of life are one of the reasons the Amazon is so diverse. The Amazon is home to 1/3 of all species on the planet, with a new species being discovered every 3 days. More types of ant can be found on a single tree in the Amazon than in the whole of Britain. In 1 hectare of jungle, there are more kinds of plant than in all of Europe. And 1 in 5 of all birds in the world call this rainforest home. The Amazon is a multi-story world. Animals living at opposite ends of one tree lead such contrasting lives, they could be at different ends of the earth. The forest floor is a very different world from the canopy above. Only 2% of the sunlight that saturates the canopy filters down to the ground. It's hot and stifling. A dark underworld where nightmarish creatures reign. A colony of army ants is moving house. Scouts beat a path through the undergrowth, leaving a chemical scent trail for the rest of the swarm to follow. Workers link together to build living bridges. Soldiers stand guard over the ant highway. Army ant colonies can contain 2 million individuals, and columns stretch for 200 meters. The new nest site is in the hollow of a tree. As more ants arrive, they cling together, forming a protective lattice around the entrance. But this nest is just a temporary bivouac. Army ants can't afford to stay in one place for long. With a new camp established, the ants' behavior changes. The marching column disperses, and workers fan out across the forest floor. It's time to hunt. The raiding ants systematically sweep through a patch of forest, searching every surface for food. The swarm can catch as many as 100,000 prey items in a single day. The ants communicate using pheromones, chemicals released into the air that send instant messages, calling for reinforcements. Once a victim is captured, the ants sting it repeatedly. Enzymes in their venom start to break down its tissues, making it easier for the hunters to cut up their kill. Body parts are carried back to their bivouac. When they've exhausted one patch of forest, the whole colony moves on to a fresh hunting ground. Army ants are some of the most formidable creatures in the Amazon. But there are animals that beat them at their own game. At the head of the hunting party, ant birds pick off insects flushed out by the advancing swarm. These birds survive by letting army ants do the hard work for them. And then pinching their prey. Incredibly, some butterflies eat only ant-bird droppings. It's one of the most bizarre specializations in the Amazon. Over 300 species of birds and butterflies rely on army ants for survival. Every imaginable niche in the Amazon has been filled because it is such a stable environment. At the poles of our planet, animals are faced with extreme differences between seasons. Winters are dark and frozen solid. But in summer, the sun never sets, and 24 hours of daylight melt the frozen world. Few animals evolved to cope with such extremes. But as you travel towards the equator, conditions stabilize. Days and nights have more equal lengths, and the difference between seasons is less pronounced. Animals no longer need to hibernate or migrate for winter, but can spend their energy exploiting their environment. In the Amazon, right on top of the equator, almost nothing changes from one day to the next, year in, year out. And in such a uniform world, evolution has run wild. The Amazon is home to some of the wildest colors and forms in nature. The forest floor is the most constant environment of all. As well as being shaded from extreme sunlight, it's also sheltered from wind and rain. 25% of the rain that falls over the forest evaporates as it trickles through leaves and branches and never makes it to the ground. 1 million species of arthropods, insects and other creepy crawlies are found in the Amazon, 20% of all species found worldwide. This spider is one of the largest, the size of a man's hand. Spinning a trail of silken thread is her way of mapping her territory and making sure she can always find her way home. A caravan of caterpillars hitches together with fine hairs, ensuring no one gets lost. Conditions are so predictable that animals are able to develop incredibly specialized ways of life. This pile of froth is home to some tiny tadpoles. Their bullfrog father whipped up the foam from mucus secreted from their mother's back. But that's the last parental care they'll receive. From now on, they're on their own. They blow bubbles to prolong the life of their foam home. It's the only armor they have. But it provides little protection from one jungle monster. This wasp measures just a few millimeters, but to tadpoles, it's an aerial assassin. Older tadpoles can wriggle below the surface to hide, but less developed eggs have no escape. These two creatures are locked into an even more complex relationship. The wasps ball up wads of the tadpole's foam nest and use it as glue to construct their hives. As animals become more specialized to exploit a particular habitat or food source, so others adapt to outdo them. An evolutionary arms race produces ever stranger life forms. If this stick insect stays still, he all but disappears. His camouflage perfectly matches his surroundings. He may have avoided detection by one predator, but he's still the source of a meal for another Amazon creature. Tiny biting flies, known as stick ticks, are slowly feeding on his tissues. It's not just animals that have gone into overdrive here. Because the Amazon straddles the equator, where there are no seasons, plants grow at a constant rate all year round. Hundreds of millions of trees compete for light and nutrients. But despite such an abundance of green, soil in the Amazon is thin and infertile. Dead wood and leaves are broken down quickly by fungi and bacteria. Roots and shoots spread out across the forest floor, probing for any scrap of nutrition in the leaf litter. Nutrients are recycled so fast, there's no time for rich soil to develop. Competition is intense. Plants fight a slow-motion battle, and many are armed and dangerous. This tree's spines keep leaf-eating monkeys away. Others bleed poisonous sap, which deters wood-boring beetles. But there's one kind of sap in the Amazon that has changed the world. Rubber. In the middle of the 19th century, the world discovered what native Amazonians had known for centuries. The sticky latex from the rubber tree was very useful indeed. By the late 1800s, the rubber boom was in full swing. And Manaus, a sleepy town on the banks of the Amazon River, had become a thriving metropolis and a byword for wealth and decadence. Rubber barons would light cigars with banknotes and water their horses with champagne. Today, Manaus stretches for over 20 kilometers along the Amazon River and has a population of 2 million people. There's even an opera house in the middle of the jungle, which was built using the finest materials imported from Europe. The rubber boom put the Amazon on the world stage. But it wasn't the first time the jungle had seen the hustle and bustle of human civilization. In 1541, Spanish explorer Francisco de Orellana became the first European to venture into the dark heart of the Amazon rainforest. Far from finding a pristine wilderness, accounts from his voyage tell of busy riverside towns, roads stretching deep into the jungle interior, and advanced cultures. But within 100 years, when the next expeditions followed in Orellana's footsteps, almost all trace of humans had vanished. The rainforest had reclaimed the thriving settlements of which Orellana wrote. And to the conquistadors, the Amazon seemed untouched. Few believed these mythical towns had ever existed. But recent research has revealed evidence of ancient civilizations beneath stretches of forest thought to be primary growth. It is now thought that 5.5 million people inhabited the Amazon in the early 16th century. And it seems Orellana and his crew unwittingly precipitated their destruction. 95% of the indigenous population was wiped out by diseases such as flu and smallpox, introduced by the Europeans. Today, there are 30 million people living in the Amazon. Many are descendants of the first waves of incomers, rubber farmers and slave traders. But some are descended from people who've been in the Amazon for 10,000 years. Children of the Satere-Mawe tribe in northern Brazil still learn the skills passed down from their ancestors. Fishing for ants is a way of harvesting one of the most important protein resources in the forest. It's estimated that ants account for 30% of all animals in the Amazon. They're an acquired taste. And there's a knack to eating them. The bulbous head is packed with protein. But this snack has a nasty habit of biting back. The Satere-Mawe people have another relationship with ants, one that is altogether more extraordinary. This team of hunters are after some menacing prey. Most hunting parties creep through the forest so as not to disturb their quarry. But there's no need for stealth today. These men want their target to know they're coming. Hunting horns reverberate through the forest and stir every creature into life. At last, they've found what they're looking for. Bullet ants. These giants are some of the largest ants in the world. 3 centimeters long, they sport serrated jaws that can cut through human flesh like butter. But it's the other end of the ant that is most fearsome. A bullet ant's name says it all. Their sting is the most painful in the insect world. Agitating the ants with smoke and sound brings more and more to the surface. One sting would inject neurotoxic venom so powerful, it feels like being shot. The ants have evolved this weapon as a defense mechanism. The excruciating pain tricks any attacker into believing it has suffered a far greater injury than an ant sting, and causes it to run away. But capturing this hazardous haul is just the beginning. Enduring the terrible pain a bullet ant can inflict is a rite of passage for every Satere-Mawe man. Back in the village, women prepare for the arrival of the ferocious ants. The leaves of a cashew tree have special properties. Children are taught that the youngest and juiciest leaves are the best ones to pick. soaked in water, they make a natural chloroform. Knocking the ants unconscious is the only way they can be handled. It's a technique that has been passed down the generations. Dozy from the sleeping potion, the ants submit without a struggle. The weave of a palm leaf glove pinches each ant around the waist and holds them tight. Dozens are trapped, sting inwards, in a living mitten. This ant ceremony is known as the Festa Tocandira. Every Satere-Mawe man will pass through this ritual, not once, but 20 times during his lifetime. Today it's the turn of 2 boys. They've both done it before. But knowing what lies ahead is no comfort. The ants have shaken off their sleeping draft. Smoke agitates them even further. They're wide awake and angry. And each boy must keep his hand inside this gauntlet for a full 10 minutes. Each sting is 30 times more painful than that of a wasp. And in each glove, there are over 120 stinging ants. Just one sting could cause an allergic reaction powerful enough to kill. Dancing and chanting helps keep the boys' minds focused. The pain is so intense, it can play tricks on the psyche. Men have reported wanting to cut off their own hands to escape it. But they must also keep moving. Dancing keeps the blood pumping through their veins, which helps dissipate the poison. And sweating releases it from the body. The boys' hands swell and become paralyzed. The pain spreads up their arms to their chests. And it will last for 24 hours. The whole village supports them and helps them through the ordeal. The Satere-Mawe people say that the toxins in the ants' stings immunize them against disease and will keep them strong and healthy. And they believe that undergoing this agonizing trial helps each boy take a step towards being a true man. The Amazon's constant climate has driven the diversity of plants, animals, and even people. And fueling the whole giant ecosystem is water. Rivers crisscross the Amazon, a natural irrigation system that provides water to animals in all corners of the forest. While many cats avoid getting their feet wet, jaguars use the smaller waterways to move around with ease. Their large paws make excellent paddles. The rivers also provide a jaguar with a food supply. They often catch fish or turtles in the shallows. Even caiman fall prey to these powerful big cats. But this young jaguar is a novice hunter. The caiman is young too, but it instinctively knows to stay still. It's a lucky escape. An older, larger caiman might not have let go so readily. Water from all these small creeks eventually feeds into the Amazon, the mightiest river in the world. Over 6,500 kilometers long, it flows from its source high in the Peruvian Andes to its vast gaping mouth that stretches 240 kilometers along the east coast of Brazil. More water flows from the Amazon River to the ocean than from the world's 9 next largest rivers combined. It holds a fifth of all the fresh water in the world. The Amazon River has over 1,000 tributaries. Some are cloudy with nutrient-rich sediment carried from the Andes Mountains. Others are acidic, their pure waters the color of black tea. At the city of Manaus, in the heart of the rainforest, the mud-colored Satere-Mawe River is joined by the black Rio Negro, itself one of the largest rivers in the world. Together they form the main trunk of the Amazon. The two rivers are different temperatures and flow at different speeds, so they remain separate for nearly 10 kilometers before their waters mix. And where these meetings of the water occur are some of the richest freshwater environments on Earth. There are more species of fish in the Amazon River system than are found in the Atlantic Ocean. There are fish so large, they're said to be able to swallow a man whole. And shoals of piranhas, whose ability to strip the flesh from a man's bones in minutes is legendary. But there is one creature here that even piranhas fear. Pink river dolphins are consummate hunters. They're nearly blind, but visibility in the river is almost zero, so they don't need eyesight. They hunt and navigate using echolocation. The bulge on their foreheads focuses clicks that bounce off obstacles and prey, building up a sonic picture of their underwater world. It's so accurate, they can detect objects as small as a pin. rivers are full of life. But they're also one of the reasons this rainforest is home to such extraordinary biodiversity. Small rivers might be easy for wildlife to cross, but the larger ones are impassable. The Amazon itself can be over 30 kilometers wide in places. Rivers traverse the jungle, forming barriers and cutting off animals and plants from one another. This network of waterways slices up the Amazon into a series of forested islands. It looks like a uniform blanket of green stretching to the horizon. But different regions, separated by large rivers, have distinct characters. The cloud forests of the Andean foothills are quite different from the flood-prone lowlands. Cut off from their relatives in these divergent habitats, castaway creatures evolve into new species. Tamarins are a prime example. These tiny primates have colonized the torso of the rainforest. They live below the canopy, so they're out of reach of the harpy eagle's talons. But above the forest floor, far from the stinging, biting dangers that lurk there. Claws, rather than the nails of other primates, are an adaptation for clinging to upright tree trunks in their vertical world. There are dozens of different tamarins across the entire Amazon rainforest, but certain species are confined to small sections of it, hemmed in by river boundaries. These pied tamarins only occur in the corner of the Amazon where the city of Manaus has developed. Their forest world is being taken over by the urban jungle. As the city spreads, groups are being cut off from one another. Trapped by surrounding rivers, they have nowhere to go. As a species, pied tamarins are in trouble. They're one of the most critically endangered animals in the Amazon. But this troop is adjusting well to its new suburban home. Their natural athleticism stands them in good stead for negotiating a city environment. Walls and wires aren't much different from branches and lianas. Rivers separate species, but for people, waterways in the Amazon are a vital communication network. Despite decades of logging, roads are few and far between outside the handful of towns in this huge region. Rivers are the main highways. Ivanildo is a regatao, a river trader. He's been traveling up and down the Amazon and its tributaries for 35 years, carrying goods from one end to the other. He spends days and weeks at a time out on the river. Most of the Amazon's 30 million strong population are ribeirinhos, river dwellers living deep in the interior in floating villages. They make a living by growing fruit and gathering what they can from the forest. The nearest shop can be hundreds of kilometers away, so they rely on regataos like Ivanildo to trade their goods. For them, river traders are a lifeline, making it possible to survive in the Amazon. The Amazon is a complex patchwork of habitats, where powerful forces produce biodiversity unparalleled on our planet. It's larger than any other forest, but it's not just one world, it's many. The largest river system on Earth carves up the jungle, isolating animals and plants, driving them to evolve. And the constant climate gives every living thing the time and resources to specialize. As the modern world encroaches, it's clear how vulnerable animals can be to change. But people have been part of the Amazon's story for millennia. And it's seen civilizations come and go. The Amazon's future is in our hands, and its complexities must be respected.